So we watched a few things, actually.
We broke our golden rule, which is don't watch 3 things. We watched 3.
Yeah, we watched 3. But to be fair, one was really not... Like, we didn't know... Like, you wouldn't know when you had watched it that it was related to this topic until you watched the sequel, which isn't really a sequel. It's just that there's, like, the characters are back.
Yeah.
Like, you find out that that's what it was, but you didn't know in the first one.
So, like, until, like, the last 2 minutes, and you still kind of don't get it.
You didn't know. And you don't know until the next movie, and then you're like, oh, that's what they were doing.
So, those guys.
So, what we are going to talk about is Resolution and the Endless by directors Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who we've talked about before, both in, we talked about Spring, which was by them, and also we've done The Endless before.
Yeah, we've talked about The Endless before.
Yeah, but that was during a time where we just kind of threw a bunch of films and ideas together, but we were, like, sick.
We've talked about it before.
We were, like, unwell, and so we just did a bunch of episodes, and so we didn't really remember. It was for our cult episode. We also did, like, a dreams episode. There's a lot that was happening.
Oh, it was in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were sick.
And the only one from that series, series, I would say to watch or listen to is our demonology episode, because that's where we talk about Ed and Lorraine Warren.
And demons in your pants. We're helping you.
We're helping you. So, let me tell you what these 2 films are. So, in Resolution, it is from 2012, and it features a man imprisons his estranged junkie friend in an isolated cabin in the boonies of San Diego to force him through a week of sobriety, but the events of that week are being mysteriously manipulated.
Yes.
So we have these 2 characters, Chris and Mike.
Yep, his name is Mike.
Yeah, Chris and Mike. Chris is the one who is the junkie. He's a user. And he is living his life. He's pretty much fine.
Yeah.
But Mike gets this mysterious video in the mail, and that leads him to go and decide to force his friend into sobriety and handcuffs him to the wall for a week, because that's not how that works, first of all. You can't force someone to do that.
Yes.
They will not stay that way. That's not how that works. And also, like, who are you? Who do you think you are? So there's a lot.
Yeah.
It was 2012.
And I'm not trying to be making light of that topic, but also, if you do that and you happen to be getting trapped in a time loop, that person just has to re-detox every time. And that's like the worst thing.
Yeah.
That is literal hell. So.
Yeah. Yes. And then the other film, and the reason why they're connected, is that these 2 characters of Chris and Mike are featured in The Endless, which again we've talked about, but I'm going to revisit it and I'm going to have fun, because now I remember things and I'm here. And we're actually talking about it, because we were talking about the cult in the occult version, but this time I'm talking about
like the actual
whole time loop situation. So, The Endless is from 2017. So, as kids, they escaped a UFO death cult. Now 2 adult brothers seek answers after an old videotape surfaces and brings them back to where they began. And if you were paying attention to what I just said about Resolution, there's a videotape. And the videotape tells them, or like you said, influences their decision to now be in this time loop, right? Because there is something that is bigger than them that is controlling it.
If I told you were going to knock over the lamp, would you have knocked it over?
Yeah. Matrix.
They wouldn't have gone back if me in this yellow scarf didn't tell them to.
Yes, if one of the survivors. So, what Justin and Aaron want you to think these films are about is relationships. Because that's kind of what time loops are for. Like, it gives you this time to review your life and your decisions and decide if you've been making good ones.
Fix your mistakes.
Fix your mistakes, right? And sometimes your mistakes are your relationships with people. So when we talk about Resolution, we got 2 friends who over a week come to terms with the roles that they play in each other's life, to value their friendship, right? That they are there for a specific purpose, and to also value them as who they are in the roles that they play too. Like, he's like, you're such a fun uncle, like, you're gonna be great for my kids. Uh, no. And then it was like, and you're so responsible. You're going to be a great dad. And so, like, we have this culminating, like, relationship moment that happens at the very, very end. And then, of course, it's just like, because we're like, in, you know, we're met with the inevitable and the monstrous thing, more or less, at the end that makes that meaningless, right? But the whole thing is about their relationship, right? And that's kind of what they're playing with the whole time. Like, they're continuously arguing with one another. They're continuously, like, bringing up these issues and trying to build off of that.
And one thing that's nice is that at the end, spoilers, he admits that he shouldn't have come there to tie his friend up, to forcibly make him fix his addiction problem.
Yeah, and he admitted that it was for himself. So it's just like those, you know, when you see people on social media who record themselves feeding the homeless or helping someone in need, and it's like, if you're filming yourself, you have totally invalidated that action. It's like, one, that person doesn't deserve to be on camera in this low moment or this vulnerable moment of their life for your benefit, so that you can pat yourself on the back and get YouTube and people on the internet to think that you're a good person. You should just do that to be a good person, which is its own other argument, right? And so he comes to terms with that, where he's like, nah, I definitely came out here because of me. Like, I came out because I thought that was a good, like, if I fixed you, I am worthy
of being a good dad.
Of being a good person. Yeah.
I didn't, like, abandon you. And
And so, like, and that's the whole thing with, like, time loops, right? Is that and in these films that we're going to talk about, you are kind of confronted with, like, how do I fix the things that I did, right? And if I'm stuck living this day over, living this week over, living these 10 years over, how do I use this as a learning experience to better myself? So that's what you would get if you were listening to what Aaron and Justin are saying. In The Endless, we have two brothers with this toxic codependent relationship where the older brother thinks that he can control their entire life and that he knows what's right because he happened to get them out of this UFO genital removing death cult, which is not the case. Right? It's neither here nor there. It's more about, like, his need to control and not trusting in what his brother thinks is right, and not giving him the freedom to make decisions and to make failures too, like to make mistakes and learn from them. Like, he can't do that if he can't do anything, right? Like, it's just like what Dory says in Finding Nemo. If you never let him do anything, if you don't let anything happen to him, then nothing will ever happen to him, she said.
Yeah.
He was like, what? And it was like, because
Fido.
They have to live, you know? Yeah. So, yeah. His son, Fabio. So that's exactly it. And so this younger brother has been in his brother's shadow and feeling indebted in the same way that the Mike character was trying to make Chris indebted to him. Unknowingly, like, trying to be the good person, and it's, you know, more harmful than it is good. And so, you know, they only, similar to the other film, they only kind of are free or able to get out of this time loop when the older brother, I can't remember which one is which, Justin or Aaron, one of them, because it's them in it. He finally decides to just let his brother do it. He knows it's a bad idea. He does not agree with it. He thinks it's awful.
He's like, yeah, we're going to die every 10 years, gruesomely, every time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be here with you.
Yeah.
Sit next
but
to you.
I couldn't live with myself if I let you do that by yourself, right? And so that's all his brother needed to hear. And so then he was like, all right, let's go. I just wanted to know that you would give me the freedom and the space to do that. And that you would support me no matter what. And so that's super important.
I will say, not the time.
No. It's very bad timing.
He had terrible timing to have this moment with his brother. And the reason that they don't get trapped is because they do not fall within the window. So you have to, like, be in there when the time loop resets.
Yeah.
And they, both times, got out right before. So.
Yeah. And so, luckily enough. So, spoilers for this film. You know how we do. But I don't fully want to talk about just the relationships and what time loops do. What I really want to talk about, because we're talking about Justin and Aaron, is H.P. Mother effin' Lovecraft's What?
Your favorite boy.
My boy. It's me, your girl Gabe, and I love Lovecraft.
Not as a person.
Not him, his
he
stuff.
was a bad
Lovecraftian
person.
stuff. He was awful. So,
But the theme.
yeah, what he does. So there's some standard themes and motifs that are in Lovecraft's writing that show through in their work. So there's like the slow descent into madness, unknown and ununderstandable like beings that control your life, even though you don't understand that or know why or even know that that's happening. And then this idea of this average Joe person who is plagued with curiosity and, you know, the addiction of knowledge to figure out what's going on, pursues it, and ends up on this terrible path of death or worse.
Yeah, and that you can't win.
Yeah, you can't.
That's another big thing of Lovecraft is that you are gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot
Or
defeat
you'll go
this
insane.
big bad. Or you'll just
Yeah, you just have to go. Like, you have to run. And that's the thing is, like, are you curious or do you stay?
Time loops.
Yeah.
There's no forward or back. There's only moving.
Yes.
There's no present or past. There's only forward. You know what I'm saying?
And so, Justin and Aaron have, when they're interviewed, have often said that they are very influenced by Lovecraft.
Nice.
Like, you can tell that in their film Spring, which I loved and freaked out about. It's now one of my favorites. And this is also, like, The Endless I do really enjoy. We've watched it twice now, and I was like, yeah. Both times fun. I was like, and so, like when we talked about The Endless before, I would say something that's like aesthetically really cool about The Endless is they do like if you watch Resolution from 2012, it really is. It's a little sloppy. It's definitely like a first film kind of thing. It like the story is kind of right out of reach, like for being understandable and like what's really happening unless you're like looking. And the character, Mike, is just kind of like going around, he's discovering things and he's kind of going insane himself, and it makes you question his reliability as a narrator, which is also a Lovecraftian thing. And so, like, Chris even confronts him all the time, like, I think you're making this stuff and putting it in front of us. Like, I'm going through detox over here. I am in literal hell, and you're like leaving me. You changed me here, and then you're leaving me, abandoning me to go on your goose chases.
Leaving him in a place where multiple people are trying to kill this man.
Yeah.
You are just leaving him conveniently tied up and unable to defend himself.
Yeah, with no weapons.
His guns are in the basement. Like,
yeah, no way. Not even a basement, it's just like down.
But it is fun how when you go from the Resolution to the Endless, you gotta, if you've seen the Resolution first, you get to see all the little hints that they left you. Yeah. When you're watching the Endless, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna Tweaker. That's Mike.
Yeah, and
or not Mike. The other one.
Shitty Carl. We actually get to see him. And he was just mentioned in Resolution.
Yeah, that's cool.
And like, you know, there's all these times where there's like callbacks, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a cute little like, here's our world. It all exists together. But it's like low budget and it's cool. But in this newer one, you can really see their growth as filmmakers, cinematically. Like there were some really cool things that were happening in Resolution, but in Endless, there's some really cool things where whenever there's like something suspenseful or like something that you don't understand or something that's going to be like, it's eerie and unsettling. Like it's not scary, like jump scare. It's more like, is real and how do you fight something like that? And you don't, like, no one has ever like, I'm gonna battle this thing. They're always just like, this sucks.
You should leave before the loop resets.
Yeah, everyone's like, don't do this, right?
Stop asking questions, just leave.
But they do this cool thing with like their cameras, so they have this like really intense like wide angle that's kind of discomforting, so you can kind of see everything but you're not seeing everything. They do this kind of sort of fisheye effect that's a little like, but not enough that would be like gross or make you feel sick, but it does make you feel uneasy, like, because you're like, this isn't right, this isn't how the eyes see. And they also use like vignette, like to really like emphasize what's happening in the center of the screen, which is usually emotion and our characters like just battling internally what they're going through. So there's like some really cool things cinematically that I really enjoyed. And the story itself, and seeing a cult, which is what we talked about in the occult episode, that wasn't villainized in a way, like it was more about Like, that, I mean, they were right. Like, as far as cults go, this one was correct. And, I mean, they were to succumb to this monster really sucks, but they got the better end of the stick in that their loop is long, and it's that whole idea of like 10,000 hours where each one of them had a craft and something they wanted to be the best at, and now they have infinite time to do that. It's like, for what? I don't know. But that's what they wanted, and that's what they have. And they have each other, and they just keep doing it, and why not? Like, if you're stuck in a loop, I'd rather be in that one.
Yeah.
than where Carl was, where he was dying every few minutes, or like hour.
3 hours. 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours. And then there's that one guy who's like seconds. Like, he pops in, he dies. Pops in, he dies. Pops in. Like, that one's terrifying. That's the worst. And then
how do you even end up in that, though? That's what's wild.
Like, where, how it happened. And then Mike and Chris are stuck in a week, because that's how long the movie was going on. And you kind of, it's cool to see, like, what happened to them, because it was left with this cliffhanger of, like, what? Who are they talking to? What, like, oh, this is about Lovecraft stuff, and I didn't know, really. And then you do. And it's also cool that there's, like, this being that, like, is forcing them to create stories. Mm-hmm. Which is such a cool, like, that they're giving motivation to this unknown being. I think it was super cool for something, like, and it's super scary. I'd say, like, top 10 most horrific monster that I've never seen.
Yeah.
Like, I do not know what it looks like.
Oracle style, like, leads the way. It kind of shows the options of the ways that their fate could twist towards. And lets them, like, redirect themselves. Mm-hmm. So that they can die however they want every time.
Yeah. And either you, in the idea is that you either kill yourself to, do it, or it kills you, right? And that's kind of like, our friend Travis was like, what's the point? Like, nothing matters at that point, so what does it matter that you kill yourself? But at that point, I mean, as humans, that means a lot to us.
It just means you're still fighting.
That, even if it's not a decision, it's a non-decision. It's like, well, you don't get the satisfaction of that. Like, you can stick me here and keep forcing me to do that, but you don't get the satisfaction of doing it for me.
Yeah, you don't get to take me out.
So, and that's like, little victories. Do you want to tell them what this one's about?
Yeah, we also watched another thing. We watched Triangle. It's from 2019, directed by Christopher Smith. A group of friends suffer a yachting accident and take refuge on a cruise drifting on the open sea, but quickly realize they were better off on the upturned yacht.
2009.
2009. I added a 1 by accident.
Okay, I was like, there was no way that happened last year. So, Triangle. Triangle is another one that I made you guys watch.
It was fun.
I had already seen it. But this one is going to be in the realm of, like, what are time loops for? And this one's very obvious in your face. Mm-hmm. I'm about to spoil you. So if you have not seen this film, I do really, 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 really suggest that you go watch it, because it is great. I think it's, like, it's fun. It's not, like, super deep, and it's not going to hit you emotionally the way, like, some parts of Endless do, or, like, make you kind of question the world, but it is fun, and it's like, what's happening, what's going on, and it is a little gory though too.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I will say, if you ever watch a Ghouls episode, you should watch whatever the films that are mentioned in the description before you watch the episode.
But definitely watch it, and if you're one of those people who needs, like, the spoilers to feel comfortable to go watch it, here you go. So what the Triangle film is about is purgatory or hell. So it's about. It's about, you did bad stuff, now you're stuck in this loop, this is what your punishment is. Literally, it is referenced in here because they use the Greek mythology about it. I'm going to get all into it, right? So there's a great article from the Den of Geeks where they explain, it's called I forget what the name of the article was. Oh, Triangle, examining a modern classic horror thriller by Ryan Lambie. So Ryan says, while the movie doesn't spell it out plainly, the suggestion seems to be that back at the beginning of the film's events, Jess accidentally killed her son in a burst of rage. Shocked and dazed after this act, Jess then boarded the boat with Greg and Victor. Victor notes the strange way that Jess acts, and then having committed the terrible sin of killing her own son, Jess is fated to experience the same emotions of guilt and desperation over and over again. Triangle's recursive story and the themes of sin and punishment are underlined by one character's pointed mention of the Greek myth of Sisyphus, the king who is sentenced by Zeus to push a boulder up a hill for all of eternity. So if you're unfamiliar with Sisyphus, he cheated death twice. One of the times he had told his wife, as like a test of her love, that once he died, she needed to throw his corpse out into the city, and that his idea was that if she really loved him, she wouldn't be able to do that because she loved him too much, and then she did it. And so he pled with Persephone, which is Hades' wife, and said, let me go up there and talk to her, I'll be right back. And so they were like, sure, and then he didn't come back. And so then when he finally did die, he was punished to push this boulder up the hill, and then right when it gets about to get to the top, it rolls back down. And so you have to keep doing it. So he is in a time loop. Yeah. And it's a punishment for doing bad stuff. And so in this, we have a lot of, because there's a lot that's going on. So we have the story of a woman, and we're already uncomfortable with what's going on. Because she's very tired, ragged looking already. Everyone else is fresh, and they're about to get on this yacht.
Yeah, she looks like she hasn't slept in 24 hours.
Yeah, and the young Hemsworth boy comes by, and he says, like, she's not doing well, essentially. And, like, he's just kind of asking, and Hemsworth says, I asked her where her son was, like, because I thought he was coming with her, and she's at first just kind of, like,
stared off into nothingness.
Like, she was trying to remember, and then she said he's in school. And then he's like, well, what's up with that? And he was like, well, it's Saturday.
Yeah.
Why would he be in school? And it turns out he's autistic, so he might have a special school that he would go to. That's what
they use as justification.
Greg decides is what happened. We find out that is not the case, because she is in this loop. It is a really good loop film. Because I just love, like, puzzles, and I love things unfolding, and I love the whole, like, something's happening. It's like, why did that happen? And it's like, something over here, like, what did that happen? Like, and then you start to see, and you're like, oh, that's the keys, you know?
Yeah, you see all the things connect, and it's really fun because, like, you have the moment where it's like, how did he get hurt if no one touched him? And then you see her 20 minutes later, accidentally hurting him. Over and over.
And then someone else kills it. Like, so the whole thing with this is that we have this character Jess. They get onto this boat, this yacht, and then a horrible storm happens, and then they are upturned, and they're floating on this upturned yacht, and then they see this big cruise liner, and they're like, we're saved, and then they get on there, and then everyone starts dying from this masked villain, and then it turned out she's the masked villain, but it's other versions of her, and then she keeps getting stuck in this loop, that every time they all die besides her, they come back up on the boat. Yeah. And so then it's like, So there's this really great, I was Googling, because I was just like, I knew, like, all, like, when you watch it, you know all the different loops. But there was this really, really great, reply on this Reddit thread from Reddit user Ataramos, who says that Jess, along with her friends, are in a triple depth recursion hell after dying at sea, Heather being the only survivor. So one of them is not with them. She's presumed dead, but she actually is the only one who lived, right? The cab driver at the end of the movie is death, and this eternity of violence is her punishment for murdering her son, Tommy. Crazy, but that's less of a stretch than you might think. And so there's, like, this whole scene where, like, they're in the water, and it's clear, like, so one, Jess is dead before this whole thing happens. She dies in a car accident. Then they die in the ship at the different times, and there's a couple on there who drown inside the thing. He gets flown, like, him and Hemsworth get thrown off the ship, but then Heather had, like, been shoved out the window, and so she had actually ended up surviving. So these people are in their death forever.
Because she was, like, the add-on that was worthy of life, I guess.
Yeah, she just she was fine.
Well, the other friends
she was
good.
She was good. Yeah, she was a good girl, and she was like, she was like, I'm not getting in the middle of this. Like, that's not what I'm here for. The reason why one of the things that clue you to this is that the time on Jess's watch is the same time that she died. So it says 8:20, right? So that was her car crash on the way to that with her son's body in the trunk. Later, it's her body in the trunk, but in the first iteration, it's her son's body in the trunk.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay.
Well, we're gonna have fun. Everyone else has a different time time. So Greg's watch says 11:30, which is the time that he died and the boat sank, right? The reason why these two times don't make sense unless it is this is that if her time says 8:20 and then she got to the boat, so say they left at 9, she was asleep for a few hours. Like, it doesn't make any sense for like when the times stop. Yeah. And the time is the same. Her time is the same that's on the ship. It matches her time and not his because it's her specific helm.
Yeah.
So there are essentially, according to this Reddit user, 3 different Jesses in this cycle. So essentially what we have is like the Jess that we follow ends up on the ship and there's 2 other Jesses already there.
Yes.
So there's a Jess that she has to fight at the end and throws over the board, right? But there's also another Jess that had killed other people and is still hanging around by the time she goes into her second thing and becomes that other Jess.
Yes.
So it's like this... This sounds crazy.
There's a lot of them.
This sounds crazy. So one Jess dies on the ship and is killed and thrown overboard by another Jess. This is Jess the Sun Murderer, the first Jess.
Yeah.
So there's when we finally get out of the time loop, or we think we are, and we go see Jess, she's in a dress. And so there was like all these questions of like, why did she change if the whole reason that the sun spilled the ink on her is because he saw a version of her?
Yeah.
Right? So she should not have, like, the first Jess should be in a dress and should be on that ship. And also the sun should be on that ship. Why was first Jess never in that dress and never with her son? And the reason is that she snapped on her son, killed him, had to change her dress into the outfit, has the body in the back, ends up in the crash.
Yeah.
So that's first Jess, right? She has the car keys because she was in an accident. So this Jess murders Tommy. She is undistracted by the doorbell. Because remember, that's the whole thing, is she ran, like, I was even saying, like, why does she ring the doorbell? There's no reason. And it's because she knows that she killed her son. So she has to distract herself from killing her son so she can kill herself.
Yeah.
I sound like a crazy person. You have to watch this film and then listen to this episode. So she changes out of the dress. She puts her both keys in the pocket. Blah, blah, blah. She ends up dropping her keys in one of the cycles so that cycle 2 Jess can find them. Because I was like, why is the keys here? Like, it doesn't make any sense why the keys would be there. It's because of first Jess. Anyway, when having an encounter with Victor, she's interrupted by cycle 2 Jess storming through. So that's like the Jess that we follow from the beginning, a cycle 2 Jess.
Yes.
She encounters cycle 3 Jess, and just before killing cycle 3 Jess, who she thinks is cycle 2 Jess, learns that she is attempting to save her son.
Yeah.
So she learns this. Cycle 1 Jess murders Sally, who crawls into the same place. So there's like this thing where there's a bunch of Sallys who are stuck. There's like a bunch of them.
Yeah, like
just
a
all dead.
Large heap of Sallys just laying there. It's sad.
Yes.
Lots of seagulls.
So cycle 1 Jess interrupts herself from murdering Tommy and kills what would have been recurring cycle 1 Jess, thus becoming cycle 2 Jess. So that's like her, the first time she murdered that, she becomes now the new one that we're following in the first time. So cycle 2 Jess is Jess in the movie. This Jess jumps overboard and does not mention that she's saving her son as she's going over. So cycle 2 Jess dies in a car accident and is brought back to the harbor by the driver, who is patiently waiting and is 100%, what's his name, from Greek mythology that I'm forgetting his name again. The guy who waits by the river Styx. Someone remembers it. And he drives her there, and he says, like, I'll keep it waiting, and she says, I'll be right back, which is just like Sisyphus said, and he didn't come right back.
Oh my god, this is real.
So this Jess kills Victor by accident, remember?
Yeah.
But remember, there was a Jess that was hiding when she fought Victor. And then that is cycle 1 Jess, while cycle 2 Jess is killing Victor by accident. And that's the Jess that saw Victor being killed and was like, what the F? So, and then in this movie, Jess shoots Sally in the theater, picks up the keys dropped by cycle 1 Jess, and then ends up dropping them for cycle 3 Jess, blah, 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 blah. And blah, blah, blah. I'm going to move on. There's a third Jess, and this one jumps overboard and does mention that she needs to save her son as she's going over, and this is the third Jess, and this is Jess the murdered. Cycle 1 Jess is interrupted before murdering Tommy and comes across dying Sally and tells her that she is not the murderer. Cycle 3 Jess's head gets clipped when she attempts to later kill Sally in the theater and finally dies to Cycle 1 Jess's crowbar. So, if you watch the movie, that makes sense. If you didn't, you're very confused.
Yeah, that was from the Reddit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy did a lot of, or person, I don't know, did a lot of, like, connecting, which was great. I just imagined the whole, like, thread, like, red thread, trying to follow. Because, like, they first set up, like, here are all the inconsistencies if you just go off of this. And so then they're like, so we deduce that there are 3 different Jesses. And then if you go off of the fact that she killed her son and now she's trying to fix it. And then we have this whole thing where she does all these things. And then at the end, she thinks she is out of the loop. She thinks she fixed the loop. She goes and kills the bad version of her, Cycle 1. And then tries to save her son. And when she's driving, she hits, there's a pigeon or something that hits the windshield. She throws it and there's a whole pile of them to show her, just like the Sallys, that this has happened and that she is not out of the loop. And then she still, like, replicate, and it's because she hasn't changed as a person. Like, the fact that she has it in her to murder, like, we see that. Like, at first we're like, what? But she clearly has it in her to murder. But we know that because when she's in the car, she's still, like, kind of agitated and yelling at her son, which causes the accident in the first place. So it's like she just like she hasn't learned her lesson, so she's always going to be stuck in this loop until she finally, like, just addresses that she was the problem and how to fix that, just like Groundhog Day.
But, like, she doesn't get enough time before fighting begins to get there.
Because
like,
I
her
mean,
loop is short.
It's not really about, like, because it's just punishment.
It's not supposed to be a lesson.
She's not learning. It's just that this is what her punishment is for that horrible act. Because if you think about it, just child abuse is not enough to warrant, like, her being stuck in the loop. Like, there's no way that she would be the pivot of this whole thing unless it was actually murder.
You know what, honestly, though? All the Jesses. Chill.
Like, one of them just talks to the other.
Like, don't jump immediately to murder. I get why they got there. I'm just saying, like, if she chilled for a second.
And that's the thing, is, like, it is really exciting to kind of see her, because the whole time you're really like, how does she get to that? Because the Jess that we're seeing is this, like, feeble, gentle thing, and then, like, you see her slowly kind of just being like, like, she fights it every step of the way until she can't anymore, and then she just ends up that way. So it's like, it is really, really cool to see that, and the you know, the surprise ending that she was, like, not as great as we thought really makes you look and examine the whole film over again and be like, she really, like, no wonder she got to that point. Like, she'll do anything to get to her son or to do, like, to redeem herself in this way. So,